Okay, it is 5:15, May the 15th, and this is going to be a weekly recap from the 9th to the 13th. And I had a total of 13 trades. 8 trades were green. That wasn't the really best winning percentage rate, but what was nice with this week is that I had almost twice as much as here. My average dollar gained $4 compared to $2.60, and I had a much higher average percent gain compared to an average percent loss on a losing trade. The size was about the same, and I did spend around roughly the same amount of time in most of my trades, whether it was a winning trade or a losing trade. I made $20, and that was with $2,200 of dollar volume, which is 1%. Ideally, I would like to see that to be a bit higher, but there were some scratch trades. There was a lot of, I guess, experience, and there was also this one trade here with SYXX where I actually went above my dollar risk level. And I think with the way things are going, I'm going to go ahead and continue to a $20 risk level Monday. But if it just feels like throughout the week that maybe it doesn't, like, I don't feel as well, or it's not really going as well, or something just seems off, I might go back and stay with a $15 risk level for a third week in a row, I believe, and that's going to be fine. Let's go ahead and go over the setups one by one, and the first one is NWBO for the ninth, and this is a previous high morning spike setup. Let's look at NWBO for the ninth. So this is the ninth right here, which is before the big red day it had. And at any point, even though it was showing some topping action, this thing could have broken this $2 level and continued to make a move towards the upside. So let's look at the ninth, which is going to be way back here. I was in at 9:30 at the market open at $2, so we'll just zoom in a bit closer. And I was in right here at 9:30, right at $2. So why did I get in it? The previous high on the day before was 199, and then this one was 196. So I was going for that thing that I mentioned, that where maybe it can try to break past $2 and then it can continue in the morning, be a very nice morning spike and head much higher over a longer period of time. And that's why I was in it for that reason here at 9:30, this first candle right here. And I did get out the next minute at 199, so I got out right here at 199, so roughly right here. Let me zoom in just a bit more. I got in right here and I got out right here. And why did I get out? It looks like I didn't like the price action. Yeah, maybe I just didn't like the price action. Maybe the level 2 in the morning, right at the market open, I mean, looks like it's gonna break the $2 level, but it wasn't able to, so I got out. And it did get as low as the 190s, but it did try and break past this level later, and I think that was the next trade I took. The next trade was on the same day with NWBO. Previous high morning spike, I was in at 933 at 199. So I was in it right here at 199. Why did I get in it? Again, it didn't work out here. It didn't look like it was going to do it. It downtrended, but now it was coming back. And it was also breaking past VWAP, it seems like. So that's why I got in it for that reason. As you can see, it did get to $2.05, but unfortunately, it didn't get much higher. I got out at 935 at 203. So right here, 935, right? Just want to be sure. Yep. 935, 203. So I got out right here. I like how I did let it make a high at 205, and then it started the downtrend when I got out. So if I have to assume, I probably got out of this trade because perhaps it broke a trend line. Yep, that's probably why I got out of it in this candle. I like using trend lines. It tends to help me hold on to setups that are working longer. Unfortunately, this one did break $2 and it only got to $2.05, but that was probably why I got out of it right then and there. But at least if it were to have continued to follow the trend line, I probably would have been able to have sold for much higher. That's totally fine. That was a pretty good setup. Two trades around the same idea of it breaking $2. Didn't work out here. Immediately got out, downtrended, and then when it looked like it was going to do it and come back with more strength, I got in. It did get as high as 205, and I got out at 203, and that was a trade right there with that. Let's look at the next trade, which is CYBL, and this is a morning panic bounce play. Let's look at CYBL for the knife. Now, this one did not really have like the best chart for a morning panic bounce play, but I liked it because it did kind of break below this range right here that it's been holding for a while. And CYBL is just known to do nice morning panic bounce plays, even if it's not having like a spectacular day or anything like that. I was in it at 9:49 a.m. and that was at 177. Right here, I got in at 9:49, 177. So right here, why did I get in it? Well, you can see it's a potential morning panic bounce play. Maybe it didn't drop that much, but it dropped from the 19s to 17.6. So not the most, but it was clean. And this is a stock known to do morning panic bounce plays. And if you can draw a trend line, you can see, you know, at some point it broke past it. So that was also in favor. Again, I'm in at 177, a few candles after breaking the trend line. It didn't also, you know, break past it and then uptrend a little and then try to follow it again. This was a pretty good entry for what it was, and it did get to VWAP. I got out at 950, 181. Let me just be sure. Okay, so it's not 181, but it's 180 and a half. So at 950, I was out. Right here, right about here is when I got out. It did get a little higher, but I probably didn't like the way it got there. Maybe it just shot up all weird, and maybe the ask lifted up, but the bid was at the same spot. It did uptrend a little. It did get past VWAP, but as you can see, it wasn't the best price action, and it did downtrend later. I think that was fine for what it was. Not a bad profit and not a bad trade, all things considered, but definitely not one of the better setups, that's for sure. Let's look at the next trade, which is a morning panic bounce play with NWBO. I believe this is the day when I traded NWBO a bunch of times. And it was for a good reason. So you can see here on the 10th, pretty big, massive red candle. You can see the price action here. Just offered a lot of opportunity. And I tried my best to trade it. And I think I'm happy overall with how I did with this one, except that I did miss the overall bottom right here, which was, you know, kind of bad, but that's totally fine. At least I did try, and I did like how I did eventually get to VWAP and break past it. That's not something that all of these do when they have a humongous red day. I'll probably just zoom in for right now to go over the first few trades. Just keep in mind this thing got as low as 37 cents, and we're looking at this right here in the morning when it was still above $1. I was in at 932 at 136.5 right here. I got in, and I probably got in before it officially broke the trend line, but it was looking like a level 2 reversal was happening. As you can see, there were just maybe less odds in favor when a trend line, you know, a downtrending trend line is still not broken, but it does become a point where sometimes if you're waiting too much for it to break past the trend line, it's going to immediately kind of jump past it and uptrend a lot, and then it feels like you're chasing, so you miss out on the setup. But I did get in right here, and as you can see, it did not work out here. It did downtrend later. And just to be specific again, that was at 136.5 is when I got in. So right here was when I got out. Not got out, I got in right here. I got out at 933 at 132 and a half. So right here I got out. I lost like $4, you know, trading this in 28 seconds, which sucks, but at least I was quick to see that it wasn't actually going to do it here, even though it was trying to hold off of this level. And it did get much lower. It got to the 120s. So that was a pretty cool call to just cut it off right then and there. And I did try it again. This time I was in a lot more shares, and I wasn't trading according to a $15 risk level. I traded a $20 risk level here, trading 150 shares. I guess I was just a little petty because the last one didn't work out and I wanted to trade more size here, but yeah, I should have stuck to $15 nonetheless. I was in it again at 934, 123, right here. I was in at 123 right here. This was a pretty good entry. And again, you know, I got out seeing that it wasn't going to be the bottom here, but I got in again when it looked like it was going to play off with this 130 level. How you can see this is 130. It broke, you know, broke under it, created panic, and then it started to work itself back up. So I thought maybe the bottom was in, and I got in at 123 for that reason. Probably a lot of people supporting it at the bid as well. Again, my entry was right here, and I got out the next minute, which isn't really the best, but I did get out at 130 right here. 9:35, 130 is when I got out, right around here. And I did get out. The thing I could have done better with this one, and you know, this was like a very long time on this day from the last time I had a trade with a regular morning panic bounce play that was proper. It wasn't like CYBL. It was like a proper morning panic bounce play on a, you know, first massive red day. And I don't know, I feel like I just didn't do as well as I could have, but I did get out of it because I didn't like how close VWAP was to the overall bottom. And whenever I see that happens more often than not, it means that the bottom is not in, but it still got to the 150s. But it didn't mean that over a longer period of time, this thing got a lot lower. So that's one thing to take into consideration. I kind of wish that maybe I sold half of my position right here at 130, and then I could have sold the other half if it were to have broken like 123, my original entry point, or maybe even the original risk level, which would have been the day low. And then that would have allowed me to sell the other half maybe past VWAP or in the 140s, and that would have been pretty nice. Let me see what a sell at 135 would have been if maybe I did sell half at 130 and the other half at 140. Yeah, that would have been close to 10%, $18. That would have been pretty cool. And I think that is something I can try to do with morning panic bounce plays or setups in general that are working. I can try selling half whenever it feels like maybe it's a bit exaggerated from where I'm in or just a little sketchy. But then, you know, hold that other half so if it continues to uptrend even more, which happens a lot, I can be able to sell that half or more and overall be more profitable and be better with my trading in that sense. Let's look at the next trade, which was, yeah, it was much later at 11 o'clock. And as you can see, the price is much lower. Let's zoom out a bit. This was a late morning panic bounce play. I was in at 11:27, 89.79. 11:27 was right here. So I did trade this first blip right here. And just to be sure, it was at 89.79. So I got in right here, 89.79. So right here is when I got in. Not a bad attempt for what it was. You know, it wasn't the ultimate bottom. There was two more bottoms before it did it. And this was like a little mini higher low. You know, it did get a little higher, but again, it wasn't the ultimate bottom. I got out the same minutes at 888. So right here at 888, I just probably didn't feel good with the overall price action. It did get higher, it got to 93, but there was definitely more room to the bottom. I didn't like the heavy volume. Yeah, something just fell off with it. It did get to 93. Let's see what best case would have been, right? Yeah, it would have been that much profitable. It definitely was not the official bottom right here, and it got much lower, as you can see. I mean, this is massive from 93 to, you know, 38. That's like more than half. That is crazy how much it dropped on this day right here. Let's look at the next trade with NWBO, and I was in at 11.42. Same setup, 11.42 at 80 cents. So right here is when I got in. Probably, I guess, when it started to, you know, it made this move right here, the last trade I had, and then downtrended, and then maybe I just allowed it to see if it would work more before I got in, or maybe I just got in at a later point, maybe, you know, at the not at the very bottom, but you know, when it's looking like it's actually working, so that it's a higher chance it's going to play out. Again, 11.42 at 80. right here. I got in at 80 right here. So you can see it only got a little bit higher to 84. I got out the next minute at 82.99. Yeah, 11.43. Right here, 11.43 at 83, 82.99. So yeah, I mean, I did figure out that it looked like it was topping. I guess I didn't like the price action. I tried to buy in, it seems like a bit later, not at the exact bottom, but maybe a little bit more confirmation. Too much topping price action. It clearly had a downtrend more. And at this point, I was telling myself, it doesn't have to bounce. It doesn't have to bounce. It did bounce nicely, eventually, but I've seen some of these stocks that drop a whole bunch, and they just do not come back. Like NSAV, I think was one where it just had like a super, massive red day, and it just never really bounced back. Let me see if I can try to find it. Yeah, as you can see, this was massive, right? It just did not bounce. This thing literally just fell off a cliff. And then the next day it was like a 80% gap down in the morning. It was huge. Let me get back to NWBO. I did miss the ultimate bottom again, but that's fine. I did try my best, and maybe in the future I can be a part of it. And I did have that one more trade where I eventually kind of called it off afterwards. Actually, no, two more trades. Let's just see the next trade. I did get in here at 5:10. Yeah, the same day. Inverse head and shoulders, 11 a.m. reversal. I was in at 11:58 at 75.99. So let's say 76 at 11:58. Right here, 11:58, and I got in at 77. Why did I get in? Shoulder, head, and then the shoulder. So I thought that was going to be the shoulder for that reason. Again at 11:58, and as you can see, it didn't work out. Just it got a little higher, but obviously this thing still had much more selling price action to go through. I did get out the next minute, 11:59 at 77.59. So again, I got in, 11:58 right here, 11:59. Again, just trying, but it didn't look like the price action was there. I didn't feel good because I didn't like how I wasn't able to manage my nerves, and I got out of the trade rather quickly. And it wasn't too bad. I mean, it ended up being topping price action and it fell harder, but I probably would have felt better, I guess, in this trade if I allowed it to break my dollar risk level, or maybe do something in that sense before getting out. I might have just I've gotten in this trade and then gotten out of it very quickly, just because I was nervous, not exactly trading according to a plan. So that's probably why I put no, as in did I trade well here? I put a no, which is fine for what it was. I mean, it did drop massively, and it did drop even more from that point. This was the last trade. Inverse head and shoulders, second higher low, 11 a.m. reversal. That's a lot of words. Inverse head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, shoulder, second higher low. Maybe I was talking about this or this. And then 11 a.m. reversal. When a stock is down a lot on the day, at least 20%, and we get around that 11 a.m. time period, if it looks like it, a lot of the times it can try to reverse around that point of the day, and sometimes it can get to VWAP or even above it. As you can see, it was an hour later before it actually started to actually reverse, but I've seen it work a lot of times. And let's go over this trade. And I did trade, as you can see, a $7 position, just 10 shares. So at this point, I wasn't taking it seriously, as in I'm trading this to make money. This was just a trade where I was just trading to see how the setup goes and just learn from the trading experience, and maybe not have that much money into the trade, but still actually have a trade and learn from that. That was why I took this trade right here. I was in at 1209, 74.20. So I thought this was going to be the second higher low right here. 1209, it was in right here. I believe, what was it, 74.20? Yeah. 74.20. I was in it right about here. And the issue with this one right here is that you know, for the pattern to break, it would have to get below the shoulder, because then at that point it's not a higher low, and if it breaks it, it's not a double bottom either. It's a lower low. But as you can see, the day low at this point of the time period was very close. So I did sell this one for a lot more of a loss than what I should have allowed it. I did get out at 12.16, 67, 62. I got out of it right here, 12.16, 67, 62, or what was it? Yeah, 67, 62 at 12.16. That was when I did get out of it ultimately here at 12.16, when it was clearly showing that it was going to break the day low. What I should have done is cut it when it looked like it was going to break the shoulder and not the day low, because then at that point it's not a second higher low off of the shoulder. I think that was the only thing I could have done better with that trade, but I at least did cut the trade when it did break the day low. And again, I should have just risked a different level. Let's look at SYXX for the 11th, and yeah, I mean, one more time, this thing made a nice move ultimately. It went from this 30, let's say 40 level to 96. So that was more than a double, a little bit more than a double. Ideally, in the future, I can be a part of something like this, but I'm glad I tried to trade this one throughout the day, and I did learn a lot from it, and it was a pretty impressive stock to watch, and this was really good experience, not just watching it, but also trading it as well. Pretty nice stock, and the fact that I ended up green and profitable trading this when I didn't even get the ultimate turnaround point or maybe the move above VWAP here, I think that was pretty good. Let's look at SYXX. This is a morning panic bounce play for the 11th. The 11th is right here, and I was trading a morning panic bounce play. It's clearly downtrending. Let's take a look at the 11th. Right around here. Let me zoom in a bit more. That looks nice. I got in at 935, 378. Right here, I got in at 378. Why? Probably again the morning panic bounce play, a trend line break, maybe good price action, maybe good support at the bid, small people at the ask, or maybe the ask looks like it's about to be taken out. This was a pretty good entry, and as you can see, I mean, this thing got to 50. I did get out the same minute at 389. So right here I got out. And why did I get out? I probably didn't like how it just immediately had a spike towards VWAP, and I sold into it because it makes me, I guess, scared that it's going to do something like that. Maybe it will immediately come right back because of how volatile it is. It did get much higher. This is an example where if it feels sketchy, it got to VWAP, which is my goal. I can sell half, hold on to the other half, risk my entry or the day low, my risk level. And then if it works like it did here, it broke past this level that it was topping at, and you can see it was also looking better, and then it had like a wick here, and then it got higher here and a bit higher here and a bit higher here. So clearly a lot of people supporting the bid getting stronger, and the ask just eventually gets taken out and it floats on air, as you can see right here, and it uptrended all the way to 50, which is pretty massive. I hope I can be a part of that, where again, maybe I sell half of my position here, I risk the other half, and then it does break out, and then it kind of does an uptrend. Maybe I can draw a trend line at that point, maybe from here to this candle once it was uptrending right here, the next uptrending candle. And I probably would have cut it right here, right around here. But I would have been happy even if I didn't get the very top. You know, and trend lines is not an exact science, but a lot of the times it follows it. And this one did follow it, but not, you know, above it. So I probably would have cut it here. So maybe half, you know, I'm out at 42, and then the other half I'm out at that 39 level. So 39, the 42, let's just see what I sell at. I don't know, let's just say 40 and a half. That would have been a lot nicer. You know, it's not like I would have made that much more, but maybe with more size, that would mean a lot more, and I would also just feel better because I felt like I traded that better. Again, I need to try selling setups that are working in two pieces and use a trend line. It's been a very common theme. Let's look at the next setup, which is another morning panic bounce play with the same stock, but on the 12th. This is the 12th right here. And let's go ahead and zoom in this point. Let's try to get rid of this part from the other day. That's fine. I was in at 9:38 a.m., 3:05. Right here, 9:38 a.m., 3:05. And as you can see, it got a bit lower. And this is the first morning panic bounce play in a while, even from the last point where I traded these, and they were more often than I think I lost money on it. At least even like something that breaks the trend line, and it still doesn't work. Let me draw a trend line here. I'd say maybe off of this range. It's kind of hard to make this one exact. But as you can see, I got in it right here at 9:38. Yeah, at 3:05. And as you can see, it broke the trend line here, but I guess something to take into consideration is that VWAP was super close to the bottom, and that did make it downtrend more. And at this point, VWAP was considerably far from it, so it could have been more ideal. But I did get in right here at 3:05, and it clearly did not work out. But I remember now. This is not when I bought some here. I'm not sure at what price. I think it was 31. As you can see here, I traded just under 12,000 shares, so I was probably trying to trade 7. And then, yeah, the other piece wasn't a complete fill. Let me see if I still have it saved. Yeah, I do. As you can see right here, just to prove that I'm not lying or anything, I did buy 7,000 at 31 at 9:38, which was right here where I have the candle, not the candle, but this arrow pointed at. And then I did try to buy more at 9:40 at a lower price. I'm not sure what my limit price was, but 297. It might have been 297. So what happened was that it averaged to roughly 305. So again, I traded right here, bought 7,000 shares at 31, and I guess I wasn't able to cut it in time. And thankfully it did break the level, but then it looks like it was going to immediately turn back around. So that's when I probably bought more shares here at 940 at 297. That was probably my entry summarized, and I got out at 942 with an average at 301. So right here, yeah, it was kind of disappointing because I tried here, broke the trend line, downtrended, and then I had this thing here. I wasn't able to cut it right then and there, but thankfully again it was turning around, and I got in more shares at 297. And then it got to this point, it just choked. It didn't get to VWAP. It kind of downtrended. I guess I saw bad price action, and I got out at 301, and it did get a little lower, but it eventually did hold itself together, and then it did make a move to the upside. That's SYXX in a nutshell. It's just a very ugly stock, and that's why I don't give it much money, and it trades really gross, but it does offer moves, and I just have to understand that SYXX is a little more frustrating than most stocks, but it's something still worth trading most of the time. If it gets really ugly, I'll leave it alone. It can go to $1,000. It can do a 300% day again, and I will not give a crap about it. Let's look at the next trade, which is NLST, morning panic bounce play VWAP breakout. Let's look at NLST for the 12th. The 12th is right here. Pretty impressive downtrend. Just one blip and it just sells off. Let's look at the 12th, which was right here. I was in at 1011, 420. So I was in it right here, 420, 1011. Why did I buy here? Morning panic bounce play, drops from the 440s, got as low as 412, started bouncing back and forth, started to build up, and now it looks like it was going to potentially try to break this line right here at VWAP, and that's why I got in at 420, right around here just to be sure. Yeah, actually no, not right there. 1011, a little later, right here at 420. As you can see, it did work. I mean, it did get the 433, but not much range. This isn't like the most ideal type of stock to trade, but I saw the pattern and that's why I traded it. Although I did get out the very next minute at 423, 1012. Right here, I got out at 423. Again, I was in it for that VWAP breakout at 420 and I got out at 423. I traded okay. This is another example of me regretting that I sold it all in one piece instead of selling half. I could have sold half right here, and then I could have drawn some kind of a trend line maybe. This is hypothetical, you know, maybe it would have been something actually different, but maybe from this corner here to this one, right? So I could have sold some at 423 when it felt iffy to me. And then, you know, I sell when it breaks the trend line, which it did right here. And then I would have sold the other half for 421 or maybe even 420. I would have sold for less the other half, but at least I would have given myself a chance so that if it were to have continued to uptrend towards the upside, I would have been able to sell the other half for a much more amount of money, which tends to work out more often than not. And even though this one did break it and I would have sold the other half for less, it did drop back to VWAP and it held it, which is super nice. That's like a confirmed breakout setup, and then it did make a move again from 420 all the way to 433. So that's one thing to take into consideration. Maybe it broke the trend line and the downtrend, but where did it drop? It dropped towards the original level that it broke past, and because it held, maybe I would have been able to hold through this, or maybe I would have gone out here, but when I saw it held this level, maybe I would consider getting back in, and then I would be able to sell. Now this time with another trend line. Not the best stock because it doesn't have the most amount of volume, but maybe I would have had an aggressive trend line here and I would have sold again. But the fact is that I keep trying to get better, try to improve my timing and my buying and my selling, the prices I buy and sell at. And I think that was a pretty good lesson. I can try again selling half of my position and that will help me. Let's look at ALPP, a morning panic bounce play for the 12th. ALPP is right here. Not a very significant day, but I mean, I guess it looks nice in that it broke out of this range and it broke lower, but not really that impressive. Just to confirm, I did not mean to open that. That was on the 12th. So not here the 13th. I'm going to wait for this thing to open, so I'm going to close it immediately. Oh, I guess it's not even going to pop up. That's perfect. All right. I got an ALPP at... That's kind of weird. So the 13th was a Friday. Huh, okay. So did I not trade anything on Friday? That's kind of weird. All right. Um, that's kind of weird. Did I really not trade anything on the 13th? I just want, hold on, let me just, okay, yeah, it looks like I didn't even include the trades I did on the 13th. As you can see, I had some right here. Maybe my file did not save or something like that. That's kind of sad. All right. This is not going to be the last trade to go over, but I will go over AOPP and then add the last two trades to go over. I was in at 10:27 a.m. at 62.98 right here, 62.98. Why did I get in it? Again, not the best because it was a bit later in the day and the price action is kind of creepy looking, but it did downtrend. It did get as low as 62. It dropped from 69 to 62, so at least the range is there. It was roughly 10%. And as you can see, it was trying to build itself back up, although it did have a little bit of a blip here. But the volume is here, so maybe somebody just sold a lot of shares, and that's why I didn't hold on to this pattern perfectly. But I did get in it at this price point right here at this time period. And I got out the next minute at 63 flat. Yeah, I didn't like how this one broke out of 63 as you can see, and it just jumped on air at this level right here. Then it just sold it all the way back to 63. So that just felt super sketchy. Again, this is one where I could have sold half of my position and then sell the other half if it were to have broken my risk level. And then, you know, it did get much higher to 68, so I would have been pretty happy. Let's see what would have happened if I sold half at 63 and then maybe the other half at 66, right in the middle of this uptrending breakout candle past VWAP. So it would have gone out at 64 and a half. Let's see what that would have been. Yeah, that would have been a lot nicer. I would have felt a lot better with the way I traded it too. Another reason why I need to try selling half of my position when it feels a little sketchy, and then hold on to the other half. So that, you know, maybe if it doesn't work out, at least I'm not cutting the trade with my full position, and you know, I feel crappy for not selling it when it was slightly higher. I'll be back. Let me just add those last two trades and finish this weekly recap. Alright, I have finished updating this and now it has the last two trades. I already had them on Profitly. I think what happened was is that I had these trades already in this Excel worksheet, but I probably closed it without saving it, so I didn't include these last two. Just to go over it briefly, my trades were now 15 instead of 13. My winning percentage rounded to 60%. I did trade more according to my dollar risk level with these two trades, which makes that good. My average dollar gain is now, the difference is a lot greater, $4. My average dollar loss was 2, and the percent difference was a lot more than half at this point. My average percent gain being 3.63%, my average percent loss being less than half of that, because of the fact that this thing right here, this was a nice trade. I had a 10%, almost 10% gain, and I actually could have sold this one a lot better, more profitably too. Position sizes didn't change on winning and losing trades, and the times they did vary. They did change a lot because I held this one for an hour, which is huge considering how long I normally trade setups, and this one was 6 minutes. So these two were a little bit of an outlier in terms of the stats here, but I won't change that. And that led the week being a little more profitable. My score did get lower here, which kind of sucks, but I don't know. I was trading something out of my realm. And yeah, that just helped it a little better. Closer to 1% profitable compared to what I traded in terms of dollar volume. Let's go over the last two trades. And the first one is PIXY on the 13th. This was a dip towards VWAP, first big green day. Let's look at PIXY for the 13th. Doesn't seem like much, but when you look at this day, huge green day. And if you go to the day that I published these trades, or not published, but the day that I traded these, if you see the video that I published on the 13th, you can see where I go over it in detail. But essentially with this first trade here, I was trading what seemed to be almost an exact one-to-one replica of SYXX on its first official big green day too. I was in at 12:38 p.m. at 4886. Let's highlight the day. 12:48 p.m. Right? 12:48. 12:38. Yeah, no wonder that fell off. I was in it right here, 12:38 at this 488.6 level. So why was I in it? Again, you'll just have to, I guess, watch the video I made that day. But essentially, this thing was massively uptrending. It started at 23 cents. Started to uptrend like crazy. And then it had a first dip towards VWAP. And it held above it. It floated above it. Which is normally something out of my realm. But because, again, the thing with SYXX, I compared it. It looked very similar to SYXX's first green day. They never did touch VWAP when it had a downtrend around this midday level. And even though it did touch it here, this thing was so strong that it downtrended and it didn't get to VWAP, and this thing continued to uptrend. And I was in it right here around this level at this 488. Yeah, this 48 level. Yeah, 4886. I got out at 1:40 p.m. at 5361. Right here is when I got out. This really sucked. But essentially, I was in this setup and I was comparing it to the first green day of SYXX. And when the pattern broke, I was starting to get really interested in getting out. And when it broke, I believe I had a trend line at some point. And when it broke it with this little wick right here, if I have to guess, maybe the trend line was here. Right, maybe something like this. Yeah, when it broke the trend line, and then it had this wick, I got out, and I was pretty salty because it just had a wick, and I sold right here, and then the next minute it came back to 57. Let's see what a sell at 57 would have been, because I'm still kind of salty from that sell there. And I sold on that exaggerative wick. That would have been a lot better in terms of percent difference and how much I would have made. Well, that was fine for what that was. And I think in the future, if I ever trade this setup again, I can't look at everything as an exact science. I could have tried considering selling half when I had a move towards the day high and, you know, it struggled. Maybe I could have sold some at 62. And then the other half, maybe I could have sold it precisely when it broke the trend line here. Or maybe try to gamble and hold through a wick. But yeah, that wasn't bad for what it was. And this thing is a listed stock. It's not an OTC. And that's what I don't like about listed stocks. OTCs can do it too, but listed stocks can have a big wick like this. And it wasn't normal price action. It's not like it's known to do wicks like that. So when it, you know, had that quick downtrend, I got out and, you know, ended up coming back. But that was fine for what it was. And yeah, that was pretty good. Now let's look at the last trade, which is first big green day higher low setup, and this one did not work out. I was in at 153 at 56.49. So right here I was in at 153, 56.49ish. So I got in right here, and why? Well, you know, the pattern kind of broke when it had this. You know, this is when I bought, then I had a higher low, and then this was a higher low in theory, and it was supposed to continue the uptrend and break the day high and continue to move higher. But when it didn't and it broke under this level, the pattern kind of broke. But I thought, you know, maybe it didn't do it here, but what if it downtrends and I'm in it right here and it's going to be like a double bottom or a higher low, a slight higher low, and then it can continue the option over a longer period of time and then break the day high. So you can see it didn't really do it. It didn't work out, but that's what I had in mind, and I did get in it for that reason right around there. I did get out at 159 at 55. Right here I got out at 55. And why did I get out? I got out because it looked like it was going to break the trend line. Again at 159. Right here I got out. And again, you know, I thought this was going to be like a higher low or double bottom. So it essentially, when it got to this point, it broke a trend line that I drew. It was from here, and I believe to this level, thinking that it was going to be, you know, this thing right here. And if you were to have looked at the thing that I was looking at with SYXX, it made a trend line from this level right here, the dip towards VWAP, and then the first, not the first, but I think the second higher low, right? Thinking that maybe this is going to be the low and this is the higher low. It never broke it until it reached like the day high for the entire day. So I thought that was the case, and I got out of it, you know, when it looks like it was going to break it. It looks like it did break it here, but the way I had it, it was still above it, and it didn't break it. So I feel kind of bad because I thought, oh, I sold when I thought it was going to break the trend line, but it didn't actually break it. And now it's going to uptrend without me and make a move towards the upside. It actually did break it later. And I would have been fine selling it when it was breaking it officially here, even though it did try to hold itself together after that and then make a move towards the day high actually again. But I think that was a good attempt for what it was. Maybe I tried to trade it too precisely, but yeah, that's really about it for this week. I'm going to call it off. Again, I'm going to stick to a $20 risk level, but if it feels kind of iffy, I'll go back to 15. Worst case, I drop to 10, and I'll make more progress and try to sell half of my positions more often on setups that are working. That's all I have for this right here.